Hello everyone. Continuing with the series of X-CAT questions, today we have in store for you a question type which has been regularly seen in CAT since last 25 years. Yes, it's that question type which is as such extremely crucial in our lives, that is to identify the essence of the information given. We have so much of information around us, everything cannot be important. How to find out the essence of the given passage and ignore the trivial information is the main prerequisite of this question type. It's one of those non-RC question types identifying the summary of the passage or identify the option that encapsulates the essence of the passage in the most appropriate manner. This is not an easy task. When I say identify the essence or the summary, it becomes extremely important to understand what are we talking about. So, identifying the main topic, the primary purpose and the main point of the passage are crucial to come to the correct option for this question type. Summary question type, the question type which actually includes lot of parameters for coming to the right answer. So, while reading the passage, it becomes extremely important for us to identify the topic, that is the focal point of the passage, and the information that is related to the passage is in which tense. Definitely there is going to be action, the verbs are going to be used, the tense becomes very important. Also, how many ideas are discussed? Obviously there is one main idea, but there can be certain supporting ideas as well. We cannot totally ignore the supporting ideas, we need to keep them in mind as well. Also, we need to focus on the style of the author in expressing his ideas that reflects the tone of the passage. Along with these things, minor things like if a pronoun is used, in what person that pronoun is, if the tense is there, which kind of a tense is used, if an adverb or an adjective used, what is the role of that adverb and adjective, how many different terms are defined in the passage. So, make a note of proper nouns, pronouns, adverbs, adjectives, conjunctions, tense, tone, and of course, the most important thing, the main idea and the supporting idea. After that, try to look for an option that comprises all these things in the most appropriate manner. An option that does not add to any information that is beyond the passage, or an option that removes a crucial information that is there in the passage. Maybe an option can exaggerate also or generalize as well. Such options cannot be the correct answer for summary question type. The best answer for this question type would be the most comprehensive option that contains most of the ideas mentioned in the passage in the same style as the author has explained in the passage, and the style includes terms, tense and tone. So, keep in mind the importance of summary, that if a third person who does not have enough information about the topic reads the summary, gets an adequate picture of what was there in the entire report. That's the importance and relevance of summary of any information in our everyday lives, and keeping this in mind, we need to solve the questions which are related to our CAT. So, let's practice this question type by certain X-CAT questions. Let's start. The first question is, modern bourgeois society, said Nietzsche, was decadent and enfeebled, a victim of the excessive development of the rational faculties at the expense of will and instinct. Against the liberal rationalist stress on the intellect, Nietzsche urged recognition of the dark, mysterious world of instinctual desires, the true forces of life. Smother the will with excessive intellectualizing and you destroy the spontaneity that sparks cultural creativity and ignites a zest for living. The critical and theoretical outlook destroyed the creative instincts. For man's manifold potential to be realized, he must forego relying on the intellect and nurture again the instinctual roots of human existence. This was the passage. Let's try decoding this passage. What is the author talking about in this passage? But obviously, the author talks about Nietzsche's point of view on modern bourgeois society, which was actually weakened, enfeebled due to excessively intellectual stimulation and rationality. And the effect of this was the total destruction of creative instincts of people. It actually marred the creativity. Also, it's been mentioned that if true potential has to be realized, man must forego relying on intellect. Rather, he should nurture the creative instincts. As I mentioned earlier, we need to keep in mind the tone and tense of the passage too. The tense is simple past and the tone is actually reflective and thought provoking. In this question, you need to do two things. Identify what the stimulus says, then you need to spot the difference between answer options. The stimulus talks of how the modern society has become enfeebled and decadent. As I mentioned, the reason given by Nietzsche is the intellectualization of society, which actually smothered creativity. And Nietzsche also suggests reviving the instincts at the cost of intellectualization. Let's look at the options. Option 1 says, Nietzsche urges the decadent and enfeebled modern society to forego intellect and give importance to creative instincts. Actually, Nietzsche doesn't urge the society, but he urges the individuals to do so. The second option, Nietzsche urges the decadent and enfeebled modern society to smother the will with excessive intellectualizing and ignite a zest for living. Here again, if we look at it carefully, he doesn't urge the society to smother the will, rather he actually wishes the society to give up and give some lessons to the individuals. The third option says, Nietzsche criticizes the intellectuals for enfeebling the modern bourgeois society by not nurturing man's creative instincts. Now this appears to be close, but he doesn't criticize intellectuals. He never criticizes the intellectuals for the state of affairs. He suggests the individuals and blames the intellectuals. This option is rejected too. Option 4. Nietzsche blames excessive intellectualization for the decline of modern society and suggests nurturing creative instincts instead. As the analysis of the passage says, this is precisely what Nietzsche says, that's mentioned in option 4 with the same kind of tone. Hence, option 4 becomes the correct answer. Let's move to another question. The passage. You seemed at first to take no notice of your school fellows, or rather to set yourself against them because they were strangers to you. They knew as little of you as you did of them. This would have been the reason for their keeping aloof from you as well, which you would have felt as a hardship. Learn never to conceive a prejudice against others because you know nothing of them. It is bad reasoning and makes enemies of half the world. Do not think ill of them till they behave ill to you, and then strive to avoid the faults which you see in them. This will disarm their hostility sooner than pique or resentment or complaint. So this was the passage. The ideas that were discussed in the passage. You actually hardly know your schoolmates, so try not to have a prejudice against them, which you might felt as a hardship, and probably vice versa. Your schoolmates also might feel that against you. And the reason for the prejudice should never be being strangers. This is bad reasoning. If this reasoning exists, you may create enemies with half of the world. And also author suggests that don't think bad of others until there is a misbehavior by them, and then try to avoid the faults if you see actually in them. This will disarm their animosity or hostility. Let's focus on the tense. The tense used is simple present and the tone is kind of advisory, and as I mentioned to you earlier, we need to focus on other things also. Pronoun you has been repeated again and again in the passage. The entire passage is in the second person pronoun. Now let's analyze the options and then start option elimination. The first option says, the discomfort you felt with your school fellows was because both sides knew little of each other. You should not complain unless you find others prejudiced against you and have attempted to carefully analyze the faults you have observed in them. Is this the option that is comprehensive? What are the points discussed in this passage? The first option ignores a very important part which author has mentioned for having a prejudice against someone, and that is the bad behavior. That important idea is missing in option 1, hence this is not the answer. Option 2. The discomfort you felt with your school fellows was because both sides knew little of each other. Avoid prejudice and negative thoughts till you encounter bad behavior from others and then win them over by shunning the faults you have observed. This appears to be comprehensive as it covers the reasons for prejudice, the behavior, and ignore the faults. So let's keep this option aside and move to the next one. You encountered hardships amongst your school fellows because you did not know them well. You should learn to not make enemies because of your prejudices, irrespective of their behavior towards you. Now this last sentence is actually an erroneous sentence. Author says in the passage that behavior is crucial. You can have prejudice if your behavior is not corroborating with the behavior of the person, and that is bad behavior. So third option cannot be the answer. Option 4. You encountered hardship amongst your school fellows because you did not know them well. You should learn to not make enemies because of your prejudices unless they behave badly with you. This also is a very close call, but here one aspect is missing, that is ignoring the fault. So between 2 and 4, option 2 is more comprehensive, hence that becomes the answer. Moving to the next question. The passage. The human race is spread all over the world from the polar regions to the tropics. The people of whom it is made up eat different kinds of food, partly according to the climate in which they live and partly according to the kind of food which their country produces. In hot climates, meat and fat are not much needed, but in the Arctic regions they seem to be very necessary for keeping up the heat of the body. Thus, in India, people live chiefly on different kinds of grains, eggs, milk, or sometimes fish and meat. In Europe, people eat more meat and less grain. In the Arctic regions where no grains and fruits are produced, the Eskimo and other races live almost entirely on meat and fish. Let's decode the passage. The main idea is universal presence of human race and the food habits of people depends on the climate and the availability in a particular geographical location. We can call the tone of the passage descriptive. The tense is simple present. Let's look at the options. Option 1. Food eaten by people in different regions of the world depends on the climate and produce of the region and varies from meat and fish in the Arctic to predominantly grains in the tropics. More or less correct information. Let's keep this aside. The second option, hot climates require people to eat grains while cold regions require people to eat meat and fish. This is not very comprehensive as it does not talk about what is being produced in the region. In hot countries, people eat mainly grains while in the Arctic they eat meat and fish because they cannot grow grains. Then the option 4. While people in Arctic regions like meat and fish and those in hot regions like India prefer mainly grains, they have to change what they eat depending on the local climate and the local produce. Third option, again not comprehensive. It doesn't talk about the availability of other food items. Fourth option also ignores one aspect, that is the availability, and adds another idea which says the preferences or the likes of the people. That is not part of the passage. So fourth actually adds to the passage. Hence option 1, which we had kept aside, is the most appropriate summary of the given passage. I am sure now you would have had a fair idea on how to crack a summary question in CAT. Just keep in mind few things, that option is the best option which contains the maximum elements from the passage in the same style as the author has depicted. Summary question type is the most important question type, and this is actually a very scoring question type. Even if you don't understand the passage fully, if you can just match the terms mentioned in the passage with the options and get a fair idea that no extra information is given and no important information is removed, you can reach to the correct answer. And as such, identifying the essence is the most important thing that a B School aspirant should do. The basic skill that is required to master this topic is enhance your reading skills, children. Reading skills actually help you understand something well, comprehension becomes easy, and you are familiar with myriad styles of the author. So enhanced reading skills will lead to more accuracy in such question types. So practice and enjoy reading. Happy learning, happy solving.